Today I'm going to be going over the new Volt 1.7 firmware. If you want to get this new firmware, you can look in the description below for all the details on that. First, I want to give a shout out to Larry McConkey, who has been an avid person to help us develop this new firmware, and also to Steve Wagner, who's put so much time and energy into making this Volt the best that it can be. Okay, I do want to point out that I am doing this demo on an M2 Volt. It doesn't make a difference if you have the control box or an M2 Volt. The way the firmware works will be exactly the same. Okay, so first I'll show you my settings. Okay, I have my roll at 90% and my dampening and tilt at 40%. Okay, so first I want to show you sticky mode. Sticky mode is fantastic now. It works exactly the way you would think it would work, right? So if I push and hold this button for 1.5 seconds, I get the green blinking light, so now it's in sticky mode. So now, whenever I tilt, it just locks off at whatever angle I tilt it. So before, the old firmware in sticky mode, the volt would kind of settle. So if I were to do like a tilt shot up and I were to let go of this hand, the shot would settle a little bit. Okay, so this has gotten rid of that problem, and now sticky mode is solid. Regular mode has gone through the biggest change, and I want to explain what the Volt is doing to help you understand what you need to do as an operator. Okay, so in regular mode, when you click the button, what you're doing is you're setting a tilt angle. Okay, so now what the Volt is doing is when you click the mode button, it temporarily goes into sticky mode and then reverts back to regular mode. So right now it's in regular mode, so it has a simulated bottom heaviness, right? So it's going to swing back and forth according to my settings. Now if I wanted to lock off a tilt looking up, what I'll do is as I tilt, okay, once I get to the angle I want, I'm going to click the button and relieve pressure off of my operating hand. Okay, now the question is, why am I relieving pressure off of this hand instead of keeping the pressure on? And the reason for that is, once I'm choosing a tilt angle for the Volt to lock off at, I no longer need to influence this with my operating hand. Okay, so I need to relieve the pressure off of the gimbal to let the Volt settle into that shot. If I keep putting pressure with my hand, all I'm doing is I'm pushing past the set tilt point, and then now I'm fighting off that simulated bottom heaviness, and if I were to let go, then the shot's going to settle. Okay, so again, as I tilt, once I get to the point I want, I click the button, relieve pressure off my hand. Okay, now I can feel that I pulled a little too hard right there, so if I let go, it's going to settle a little bit. Okay, so that was me. Okay, so there is a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to getting regular mode to work for you. Okay, so what I recommend is get your docking stand out, put it on here, and just practice, because there's a timing thing of moving the rig, clicking the button, and relieving pressure off of your operating hand, right? And the last thing you want to do is add in you walking in the shot at the same time. Some of you have been doing the click as you go method. You can keep doing that. The click as you go method is, let's say I wanted to lock off a downward angle tilt. So as I go, you can see by the green light, I'm clicking the button as I go. And once I get to the angle I want, I do one last click and it settles there, right? So the click as you go method is still effective even with this new firmware update. And that's what's new with the 1.7 firmware. Please reach out to our Steadicam department if you have any further questions.